There I was, struggling on the verge of dropping to sleep, as my teacher rambled on with some sort of competition introduction. That's when I heard our teacher say something, which by then had become familiar to us all. Hey, class, let me tell you once again, please do not just choose a competition because your friends chose it. Immediately, someone shouted, is it okay if I choose the competition my boyfriend chose? Okay, that second part never actually happened. But that one sentence from our teacher got me thinking. It is still kind of understandable that my classmates want to do the same competitions as their friends. After all, at least they'll have a study buddy and won't get so embarrassed when they have to be tested with a bunch of juniors and seniors. But think about how many times have you heard someone say, they all have it, why can't I have one too? Or, oh my god, everyone is buying that thing. I am dead if I don't have it. Yes, what you are imagining is a perfect example as people try to follow others on trends, fashion, and more. What I fear is that today, people are putting too much of their lives and effort into being a follower. We might think we are in our own control of what we do and how we do it, but in the reality, many people are followers and not leaders. So today, let's search the popular sites for the trend of how people are following others. Then we'll follow some of the examples to see what the effects are of doing so. Finally, we'll talk about a solution that, in the end, might not be so trendy. Now, school isn't the only place where we try to follow others' lead. Every day we see avid fans scream and shout for their beloved celebrities. People even go as far as using the same brand and shade of lipstick as the famous actors, the same type of basketball shoes as the top athlete, or even the same style of clothing as a celebrity. We choose a specific fashion not because of its quality or usefulness, but because of the celebrities that this society values. I like what I saw on the internet. We worship celebrities because of the glamour and prestige, because of the unreachable and fantasies. And so many people try to be the same as those that they see as successful. But have they ever stopped and considered, is what the other person needs the same as their needs? I have seen this in my real life. Teenagers my age would collect shoes such as Air Jordan or Nike Air Max. Those shoes cost like 7,000 or 8,000 yuan a pair. There's nothing light or airy about that number. Yet, the price is actually not the problem. The problem is, many people are buying those shoes not because they like them, but because everyone around them collects them. Those shoes has almost become an icon for wealth and status. It's like whoever have a pair of Air Jordan can proudly hold up a sign that says, I'm fashionable, I have wealth, and I fit in the society. And just like how my friends try to choose the same competitions to avoid awkwardness, people are choosing fashion, choosing to follow others so that they are not embarrassed and outdated. But you might ask, why are we even talking about all these examples of following others? There seems nothing wrong. Even if the things we do or buy are not necessarily useful, isn't it just a matter of choice? But what if such blind following has some adverse results, directly resulting from an eating disorder? That is about one person every 52 minutes dying because they want to be skinny. And what does that have to do with being a follower? Well, societal pressure is one of the most common causes for eating disorders. People try to be as skinny as possible because that's what our society values, and sometimes even pressures for. With that, people try to follow the trends, but ended up costing their lives. Now, commies, hear this out. More than 200 people, many of them not even in their teens, are dead from the Blue Whale Challenge. Basically, there's nothing worth following you for. It doesn't even say the many families that are dead because they are blindly following this crazy social network phenomenon. It might be easier for us just to follow and listen to the ideas of others, but what has come out of it cannot be left undiscussed. Because people are giving up their wealth, their health, and even their lives as they chill like a puppy behind modern-day celebrities with a size zero body and a seemingly trendy suicide game. Now, after talking about all these horrible things about following others, I'm not saying that we should completely give it up and never be a follower whatsoever. When we are in a new environment or working in an area that just don't match our expertise, being a good follower is a great skill. However, there's a difference between following others and blindly following others. You might not even like otherwise for the sake of celebrities. It becomes silly when we think a pair of shoes will brighten the entire world for us, and it becomes unworthy when lives are lost as people try to think there's an endless suicide game. Instead of taking on themselves, think about these questions. Is that pair of basketball shoes something that I really need? Or do I absolutely have to have that lipstick? Because like what Marilyn Monroe once said, a smile is the best makeup that any girl can wear. Every one of us is a unique human being on this planet. We have our own background, own mind, and own story, ready to support us to be ourselves. It will never be easy nor trendy when it comes to standing up for your own ideas. Trust me, I know exactly how that feels. I said very to write this solo speech. I see a chance to become a leader to protect yourself from harm, but also a leader to inspire others. Studies have actually shown that being a leader boosts your confidence as well as allow you to become more inspirational. We need to find our inner selves and to stand up for our ideas, because that's what marks who we are as a unique person, and that's what distinguishes you from the rest of the world. As for the competitions at school, I ended up choosing a completely different field than that of my friend, since we want to study different majors. If that were you, would you do the same? Thank you.
Thank you so much, first speaker, for a great speech. And host, could you give us a 2 minutes timer so that we could write on our ballot? Yes.
Host, why the time is running? Can you check that? I don't know why.
Because of like we are writing the ballot, so just give us 2 minutes ballot writing time.
Oh, okay, okay. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much, host, for your timing. Let's welcome the second speaker, Typical from Asage. Feel free to start your speech.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, we could hear you and see you clearly.
Okay. I love horror movies. Or I would have if I wasn't hiding on covers without absolutely chickening out. And one that was especially memorable to me and also made me scared of dimly lit bathrooms was the famous franchise Jigsaw. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the franchise describes the antagonist, Jigsaw, who play a psychological game with his victims, forcing them to do things and push them to their limits to survive, sometimes failing to do so. Unlike other antagonists in other horror movies, Jigsaw had an actual motive for his behavior. He wanted people to, quote unquote, appreciate their life. He believes that if he barely kills these victims, they will become, in turn, better people. Sure, he does it in a twisted way, but this motive is certainly better than other horror movie antagonists, such as Michael Myers, who kills you because he's crazy, Freddy Krueger, who kills you because it's fun, or Leatherface, who kills you because he needs your bones for furniture. The entire franchise poses a question for the viewers: was Jigsaw right? The victims that he chooses are all essentially morally objectionable. Amanda, a drug addict who tries to commit suicide. Adam spies on people and blackmails them with the photos. Dr. Gordon, who ignores his family and tries to have an affair. Does Jigsaw's cruel mechanic of almost killing someone so that they can appreciate their life actually work? Well, it would appear to work out for most of his victims. Amanda survives a near death experience from Jigsaw. The result? She said that Jigsaw helped me. Indeed, Jigsaw did. He, in turn, helped Amanda realize how precious her life is. She gave up her drugs and she started to make a new life for herself. But obviously, this is all a psychological game, since in the end, there are people who don't survive, and you can't play mousetrap with people's lives, can you? But as crazy as Jigsaw's games look like, it's not without logic or precedent. Many philosophers throughout history have suggested that trauma and suffering leads to great personal growth, such as Schopenhauer, Rick Kierkegaard, and most notably, Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche's points almost perfectly correspond with Jigsaw's, which is very scary. Quote, the discipline of suffering, it is only this suffering which has created every enhancement in man up to now. The tension of a soul and misery has it not been given through suffering? To be fair, Nietzsche is very correct. Human advancement, if you think about it, is often forced by suffering. Back to the age of the hunter-gatherers and cave dwellers, there are wild beasts who will kill you. Second, cold will kill you. And third, food poisoning from raw food will kill you. And it has killed many people. That's an event of great suffering. And without inspiration of these suffering, pain, and problems, man, for their own nature, cannot advance. So, most of Jigsaw's victims agree with him. Great philosophers agree with him. But does science agree? Well, actually, it kind of does. Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun, psychologists who created the Post-Traumatic Growth Index, they wanted to assess the positive outcomes reported by people who have experienced traumatic events. And the results were surprisingly positive. 80% state that they established a new path for their lives. 76% reported that they were able to study people with trauma can normal people experience trauma. It will settle trauma for years of strength and jigsaw life. So that ideal, right? So should our next step be putting people in death traps and hope them to learn? Well, this is why we need to read past the headlines. While the trauma index has positive results, a whopping 94% of people nightmares, panic attacks, and more problems that will interrupt your daily schedule. After trauma, you'll feel grief and depression. It isn't suddenly sunshine and rainbows. Wow, I survived a natural disaster. My house is destroyed. My family is dead. I be a person. It's not how human emotions are. Pain fades away over time. You dedicate your life by the misfortunes and turns to drugs and alcohol, making their lives miserable. It all depends on how tough and optimistic it is. And helpful. Jigsaw failed with jigsaw anxiety. The pig of our life. When we think that we are at our lowest, how can we learn from Jigsaw's philosophy without actually trying to put ourselves in a death trap, right? Well, people evaluate an individual based on their success and failures, and it's easy to give up after a series of failures in your studies and career. We live in a fast-paced society. When the competition becomes too fierce, it's understandable to crack into depression. Currently, according to Medinet, depression affects up to 20% of adolescents by the time they reach adulthood. Now, I've lived failure, and I think that everyone has experienced that. Some maybe even severe trauma. Not that just to be hard to let go of the past, failures, family, friends. However, the best time is now, and we can only live in the present. This applies to a failed test, to a dead relative. We can no longer alter the past. Dwelling on it will only make your current mental stability worse. Don Shula, the winning coach in NFL, holding the record for most career wins, had a 24-hour rule, a policy of looking forward instead of dwelling on the past. The coach allowed himself, his staff, and his players 24 hours to celebrate a victory or brood over a defeat. During those 24 hours, Shula encouraged them to feel their emotions of success or failure as deeply as they could. The next day, it was time to put it behind them and focus their energy on preparing for their next challenge. This might be accurate for many of his philosophy. After that, maybe the best way to forget and move on is to immerse yourself in work. Make your brain think constantly. Never give grief or anxiety time to sink in and take you prisoner, and let time do the rest. Second, the future. When one of Jigsaw's victims faced great odds against his favor, Jigsaw said, "How you play the cards you're dealt is all that matters." Failure and trauma are messy, to be sure, but Jigsaw's right. If you don't learn from it, you are wasting precious experience. Why did you fail this exam? What was the root cause? And how could you avoid this next time? You lost one of your parents? Subconsciously, it just made you value life so much more. It made you take use of your time, because our time on this earth is limited and death can lurk at any corner. Take my experience of my cousins. One night, my cousin's father was eating and he started to choke and faint. Well, it turns out that he had a cerebral hemorrhage, or an internal bleeding in the brain. In the end, the procedures failed and he died. The whole process took 5 hours to complete, my cousin being only 12. Sure, there were times that were horrible for my cousin, but he adapted to it no matter what. He improvised and adapted. He was the same but different in another way. This experience made him so strong, and I can see strength in his eyes that weren't present in mine. His grades was at the top of the class, and if he can deal with such problems at only 12, We can also conquer some of the so-called problems that seem huge to us. Third, the present. This is the only time we have influence over. No matter what happens in the past or your plans for the future, the only change we can make is on the present. We need to track down and do the things that you didn't dare to do. Attend that school show. Start putting effort in your life. Snap out of the inconsistent, inefficient days you're in. And just like Jigsaw said, congratulations, you are still alive. Most people are so ungrateful to be alive. Not you, not anymore. And game over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, the second speaker, for a great speech. Yeah, I think this is about right in time. Okay, so I think there's enough time. Thank you so much, host. And okay, so third speaker, when you're ready, feel free to start.
See me and hear me as well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good. Feel free.
My time starts now. Who here has a special, one-of-a-kind relationship with someone that's unlike any other? Whether it be a family member, a partner, or a friend, they are your person that you would immediately go to without thinking. But you don't have to respond, but think to yourself, what would you do if you were to lose that person? Our family was one of a kind. Our bond was unlike any other. At the age of 10, my parents got divorced. I was asked with the hardest question I've ever met in my life. Mom or dad? In order to take care of me, my dad quit his job in another city just so that he could drive me and pick me up from school on time every day. He never cooked before. But to prop up this two people's home, he even signed up for the cooking classes online. Band concerts, sporting events, community events, you name it, the two of us were always there together. We were unstoppable, inseparable. I never had to worry about having not enough love because my dad gave me double. One in particular I would never forget was my sweet 13. We had it at my house. I invited so many people over and we watched Viller. Everyone's on their toes when out of nowhere my dad screams, "Happy birthday, Olivia!" We all turn around and there are fireworks going up in the sky. It was amazing. Everyone's looking up, admiring all the colors when I looked over at my dad who had the biggest smile on his face. That was a night to remember forever. and it was the last birthday we had together. My name is Olivia Drum, and I'm a high school student that's created a supporting system and CCA in our school, which connects us who are going through similar situations. But first, let me tell you about the story that has changed my entire life forever. In March 2019, I came home. Couldn't wait to tell my dad that I got an A+ in chemistry. I opened the door. Half of my relatives were in our house, except for my dad. I was told that my dad is diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. You know, I rarely cried, but in that very moment, tears poured on my face. I was trembling. I wanted to scream out loud. I wanted to read, and all of a sudden, I lost all the hope in my life. I gave up completely. It's just suddenly it didn't matter anymore if I had a C instead of A in one class, if I couldn't find a perfect outfit to wear one morning, or if I was late for class every once in a while. I lost the ability to relate to my parents. I messed up everything in the final exam. I hate myself. I hate my life. I hate the world for being so unfair to my family. 2 months later, my dad finished his surgery and the second period of chemotherapy. I've fantasized about a reunion so many times in my head. The way that I wave my hands, the outfit that I wear, the words that I was supposed to say, but the moment I looked into his eyes, it all broke down. He was quiet, sitting in the armchair, as if there's nothing ever happened. Hey, long time no see, Olivia. I couldn't imagine this came from a terminally ill patient with his gallbladder, part of the stomach cutting off, and at most 2 years lifespan. What he told me is that he's not afraid. He told me to be strong. He told me that we're gonna make it through it together. But why? Why did I clearly hear him sobbing at night? I knew there's no chance for me to keep belonging to a place where I belonged before. All of a sudden, overnight, I was full of frustrations, unknowns, facing long night sleeplessness, and big responsibilities that you never imagined a 13-year-old had to go through. I learned to cook the basic meals because my aunt has her own child to take. I learned how to do the housework that my dad never told me to do before. I learned how to pack up the bulletin package myself. And while I was at school, I made sure that I called my aunt and sat on the phone every day to make sure my dad woke up in the morning. Yes, it was hard, it was suffering, but as time went by, I started to feel like, well, I grew up. I'm not the little girl that needed my dad to do everything for me. I'm now taking care of my family. I'm so proud of myself. And I'm sure my dad felt the same way. Thank you to all my friends, relatives, teachers for reminding me that I'm not alone, that there's still people I can rely on. And I'm beyond grateful for the people and the communities who have been there for me, even when I didn't understand quite what I was going through. Your forms can really change a person. You guys made me realize that everyone else running by me was trying their best to make things better. Then what's the excuse for me to give up? The sadness never completely goes away, and sometimes I woke up with that feeling and didn't want to go to school. But I learned to be strong and independent. I treated every day with my dad as a gift. I appreciate it, so I would try my best to make this gift nicer, even perfect. I decided to create a student-lead CCA and a supporting system in our school, providing a communication opportunity for anyone of any age who might be going through a very hard time in their lives, to remind them that they are not alone. Miracle didn't happen. He passed away on the 8th of July. I could still recall when he grabbed my two hands with tears full in his eyes. He whispered to me that I needed to keep going. No, that's not true. Miracle did happen, because this time I would not be defeated. I would keep going and fulfill the promise I've made to him that I will do whatever it takes to make my dream a reality. And that is exactly what I'm doing here today, to spread my love and courage to everyone and everywhere. Did anyone of you know that each year approximately 3.8 million cancer cases are discovered within China and 14 million in the whole world? 30,000 of people in the world die every day, which is normal. But did you know that around 10% of their family members and friends choose to commit suicide or get depression because they can't suffer the pain of losing someone they love? They couldn't manage to pull them back up from the pain. And please, please, I don't want this to happen anymore, because I know it really hurts. We all go through hard times. Some are short, having a bad grade exam, losing our new iPhone 12 Pro. Some are long, and even permanent. Like losing someone that's special to you, having an unfortunate marriage. Listen, it's okay to stop for a while. I know you have to take time to work through the changes and figure out what you're going to do next. Sure, you have no say-so in what happens to you, but you have a say-so in what you do about it. You have a determining voice into where your life can go. Then just please keep going in that right direction. And now I live my life in a way that would make my dad proud, and I keep moving forward. What I also learned from the loss of the parents is to appreciate everything you have now, because there will be one day when you have to say goodbye to them. I used to take everything as granted. I wanted everything. I wanted new iPhones, clothes, earrings. But now, when it comes to physical checkup, the only thing I want, the only hope of mine, is to get a healthy report. So stop complaining. Please enjoy and cherish the days with someone you love, something you love, and someone who loves you. Remember that you are not alone. And remember to always take the next right step. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sir Speaker. And yeah, host will give us 1 minute with bell writing. Thank you so much.
Sorry, Judge, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Can we close our camera when we finish our speech?
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay, so the first speaker, if you're ready, feel free to start.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Good luck. Feel free to
The
start.
time starts now. November 1997. 5 years into the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. The 66-year-old Mikhail Gorbachev stepped into a Pizza Hut, and the customers rose and cheered in joy. Because of him, we have freedom. Because of him, we have many things like Pizza Hut. And the scene shifted with sometimes nothing brings people together like a nice hot pizza from Pizza Hut. Neglect the years of political chaos, economic instability, and the Cuban Missile Crisis that almost caused the Third World War. As long as we have Pizza Hut in the end, all's well that ends well. This commercial was listed among the top 10 most embarrassing celebrity commercials by Times in 2010. And despite its ridiculousness, it does shed light onto this concept of all's well that ends well, a phrase so often used in our lives, but we hardly ever considers its actual meaning. From a philosophical perspective, it is a manifestation of consequentialism, which means that the righteousness of an action is based solely on its outcomes. Gorbachev made Pizza Hut possible. Pizza Hut is amazing. End of story, nice and simple. We humans just love jumping to conclusions like this. However, consequentialism prevents us from considering the means with which we achieve this end, and that causes the problems. 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant suggested that the morality and the human experience matter more than the outcomes. So today, let us enter the Pizza Hut of consequentialism. Scroll down the menu for two potential defects of the system, one for the individual and the other for society. Finally, hopefully, we'll end up with a plateful of cheesy solutions. Now, consequentialism plays a large role in our daily interactions with each other. Since we're very young, we were told stories and fairy tales that end with, and the prince and princess lived happily ever after. The poisonous apples, the glass slippers, and withering roses become unimportant means we must labor through to get to that happy ending. Now, this emphasis on the result manifests itself in the adult world as well. We judge our success based on scores, rankings, salaries, but we neglect that what we achieve along the way, things that cannot be measured by these numbers, such as happiness or confidence, also matters. Well, I am such a counter example. I began to practice public speaking since kindergarten. My mother would watch my every performance, and after I stepped off that stage, no matter how good I felt about myself, she would shake her head in disappointment and say things like, "Oh, your voice was not excited enough when you told that story. You made a grammar mistake. Your hands were not positioned in the proper manner, and your posture will make you lose points." Now, all I ever desired as a 10-year-old was for my mother to smile and hug me and say, "Great job, sweetie." But no matter how hard I tried, there were still things I could have done better. My parents believe that the purpose of speech is to win. They neglect the fact that I made many friends along the way and become braver and braver as I stood in front of larger audiences. If we neglect personal growth in such activities, children like me could never achieve confidence. There is this constant voice in the back of our minds, like an internalized criticism of our past experiences, telling us, reprimanding us that we could do better, that we're not doing enough. And with this mindset, life's become a complete nightmare since we cannot feel truly happy for ourselves. By focusing on the ends and not the means, we have neglected the psychological well-being of the individual. On a social level, consequentialism has much deeper implications in the sense that it is dehumanizing. In our rapidly developing world of today, we no longer have the time and energy to care about the process. which is why we turn to focus so much more on the results. 20th century economist Herbert Simon introduced the theory of bounded rationality, which suggests that humans make decisions based on only a few facets of available options. The internet and social media grants our modern lives with diverse opinions all the time. And when we scroll down these pages, justifying the means becomes a difficult process unless we learn critical thinking and evaluation skills. It is even more dangerous that this mindset has made its way into our political arenas, as policymakers focus more and more on the happiness of the majority and neglect groups that don't have the power to influence this decision. As we evaluate the worth of human happiness merely based on mass of population, we are dehumanizing human life. It's supposed to be lively and unique and special, but now we're evaluating it with numbers. Now we see this trend in history, and handfuls of examples of people have been dehumanized under consequentialism. During the Industrial Revolution, when factory workers aimed for standardization of product and mass production, it did lay economic foundations for future events. But who have we neglected? The workers who performed the monotonous tasks, who were exploited in the factories and were no different from machines. In the Columbian Exchange, slaves offered free manual labor essential to the plantations in the Caribbean, Brazil, and American South. But who have we neglected? The 23% mortality rates on slave ships, the children of slaves who suffered malnutrition, and the countless Black lives who died in failed escapes and mutinies. In Hiroshima and Nagasaki, where 2 atomic bombs ended World War II and restored peace around the globe. But who have we neglected? The 50,000 innocent civilians who died, infants with birth defects due to radiation, and the scientists who developed the bombs, who later reported that, and I quote, "Mr. President, there is blood on my hands." History tells us that the piled resentment of neglected groups could not end in peace. From workers' demonstrations in 19th century Europe to the Black Lives Matter movement of 2020, our world stares in disbelief and fear at the outburst of emotions as they fight for their deprived rights. This, dear consequentialists, is the outcome if we focus solely on the better result and neglect morality. To combat consequentialism is a difficult task, and our solutions are limited. We must start by asking the individual to think more and think deeper. Do not define a person's life based on statistics, and do not define social well-being with the happiness of the majority. Look past these exterior factors and see what's on the inside, such as the unique personalities of different people and the plight of neglected groups in society. And when you feel that you have been dehumanized by consequentialism, when you feel that you are one of those neglected groups, don't be afraid to speak up and communicate. To establish this sense of security in speaking up, members of modern society must be more open-minded to empathize with other people's stories. These lessons should be taught as early as in primary school, which, according to psychologist Jean Piaget, is where students can start forming this ability of compassion. Teachers could think of games such as those in Piaget's experiments that ask students to look at the same object from different angles and communicating what they see. In this way, students could learn that different people see the same issue from different perspectives, and those perspectives matter, that they're not the center of the universe, that there are other stories that they must listen to in order to grow. So the next time we find ourselves judging a certain situation based on its outcomes, think to yourselves, are the consequences everything? What have we overlooked? Who have we neglected? And how should we react otherwise? And if you're having trouble figuring out these answers, always remember to connect to people around you, to get closer to their stories. And remember our biggest helper in this story, which is Sometimes nothing brings people together like a nice hot pizza from Pizza Hut. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's welcome the last speaker to give us his or her speech.
I loved pink when I was younger. I also loved glitter, tiara, tutus, and dresses. Did somebody mention dresses? I love dresses more than anything in the world. When I was younger, even in the winter, my mom would say, Tiffany, it's too cold to wear your summer dresses to school. But stubborn me would pull on my striped stockings and wear a hot pink undershirt and walk to school in my pretty summer dress. Now, let's not lie. I looked ridiculous. But I was happy because I got to wear what I loved. But something happened on the first day of second grade. I walked to school in my new pink dress, and I was going to a new primary school with new classmates. First, as the egotistical 7-year-old I was, I expected glowing compliments on my outfit from my new friends. Instead, I heard whispers. Ew, why is the new girl wearing so much pink? She looks so girly. I was devastated. Next, when I was asking my new friends if any of them liked Barbies, they just stared at me like I smelled like rotten eggs. Last but not least, when the teacher asked us all what our favorite colors were, every single girl in the room fervently denounced pink, just the way that the townspeople of Salem crucified their so-called witches. Why, oh why, would they hate what I loved? I was devastated, and my world was turned upside down. I learned that in my new school, girly things were not appreciated. I had to stop liking pink, stop playing with Barbies, and shut up about Disney princesses. Now, fast forward to today. Even though I'm not that scared to like pink anymore, there are still many things I like that I'm embarrassed to say. For example, I still love One Direction. Slowly but surely, I noticed a pattern in society. Society tends to make fun of things that girls like. For example, let's talk movies. I'm sure we've all heard of Twilight, the love story between a vampire and a high school girl. This movie franchise swept the world by storm and is loved by millions of teenage girls. However, Twilight is also often made fun of by social media, especially compared to things like movie franchises created for boys, or, for example, Fast and Furious, which is an action franchise about cars. Why is it that movies that are created originally for girls and mainly cater to a girl audience so dismissed compared to what boys like? The answer? Society's disdain for femininity, rooted in misogyny. Now, misogyny is a very important issue in society, but this kind of misogyny, hatred of femininity, is not as understood. Rhea Ashley Hoskin writes that society's devaluation of things that are considered girly is not the hatred of females, but of femininity. But it is still deeply rooted in sexism. So today, we will firstly explain the reasoning behind why society hates girly things. Next, how it's portrayed in common media and how it can affect men as well. And lastly, we can begin solving this issue, beginning by re-examining our own behaviors. My parents were giving me a Chinese name. They opted for the name Jieyu. Now, the name Jieyu doesn't sound very girly, so often people expect a boy when they first meet me. My parents why that is. And my mom said, Tiffany, I gave you a unisex name because I didn't want you to behave that much like a girl. I wanted you to be more like a boy. But I was the opposite of a tomboy. I love nail polish and skirts and pink. Now looking back, I wonder why my mother wished I behaved more like a boy than a girl. Why is society so disapproving of feminine girls and approving of masculine ones? Here is why. You might think that sexist ideas of women being inferior to men are not that relevant in our lives today. That is not true. Sexism is woven into the very fabric of our society. When we hear about sexism and misogyny, we might think of catcalling or educational inequalities or workplace harassment. But there is more. Internalized misogyny can affect not only men and other people, but also feminists themselves. According to Behrman and Thorne, internalized misogyny is when traditional attitudes about the inferiority of femininity seep into our heads and stay there, causing us to really believe that women are below men. This is why society disapproves of feminine traits. Because we have been told that women are inferior to men, and these ideas have stuck here so long that it also transferred to our understanding of girly personalities or girly hobbies. For example, we might see a girl who wears a lot of makeup to school. We might say, ugh, does she even care about her grades? All she cares about is looking pretty. This is because we've internalized the idea that girls first only want to look pretty for attention, and second, if she wants to look pretty, she must be vain. Though we may not believe these ideas, we perpetuate this through our judgment of others. So how does this affect the portrayal of girls in the media? Well, guys, I have a confession to make. One Direction is still my favorite band of all time. I'm really scared to tell other people that I have a huge crush on Harry Styles because I'm scared they will make fun of me. That's dumb, right? We should be able to love what we love without any shame. And that's when I realized teenage girls like me are not really allowed to like much things without being dismissed. Becky Jones wrote in the Journal of Sociology of Education that the things girls like are often labeled as superficial. Think about Produce 101, dancing on TikTok, or K-pop music. Once a group of teenage girls like this thing, society immediately dismisses it. Have we all heard of the Beatles, one of the greatest bands in history? What you might not know, of course, is that when the Beatles first started out, they were ridiculed by society. Why is that? They make amazing music. Well, that's because the majority of their fan base was teenage girls. Paul Newman even wrote in the States Journal that teenage girls who liked the Beatles were the failures of their generation. At least these failures have great taste in music. Even hobbies and interests normally regarded as feminine are compared to boyish hobbies as less worthy. With a show of hands, who here thinks that playing tennis is more worthwhile than reading a fashion magazine? Girls are often celebrated for trying boyish hobbies like boxing and other sports, but boys don't often try girly things like sewing or knitting. And when boys do try these things, they're ridiculed. This means that society hates femininity so much that they celebrate when girls become less feminine and hate it when boys become more. So how does the idea of the inferiority of femininity affect not only women, but also men? Just last month, the Shanghai Board of Education made a shocking announcement. Teenage boys are becoming too feminine. Oh no! The lack of masculinity in the young men of Shanghai has unveiled itself like a pandemic. Obviously, the internet has many ideas about this. Some people on Weibo have said that it is necessary because Shanghainese men have been emasculated by the cultured pop media. I read one funny comment that said, "Oh, all these singers, they wear so much makeup, even the guys. How can we prevent our sons from becoming Niang Yang Qiang or sissies?" Now, let's investigate the ideas and stereotypes behind this. Becoming more feminine is so much worse becoming more masculine. According to Lisa Davis of the New York Times, tomboy is considered a positive label, while sissy is definitely not. Let's think of Disney movies. In many Disney movies, the classic villain is often portrayed as having feminine traits. For example, do you guys know Jafar from Aladdin? He wears amazing eyeliner. Captain Hook is often depicted as emotional and dresses flamboyantly. Now, Disney isn't explicitly saying that femininity is evil, but it is using these conventions to depict misogynistic ideals. We, as the audience, are supposed to see these villains as silly, vain, or greedy because they outwardly portray feminine traits, like being emotional or caring about how they dress. And that makes them easier to hate. Femininity has been weaponized to show all the bad traits in society, in men and women. I'm quite a girly girl myself. I love dresses, Taylor Swift, and jewelry. And that's okay, because I love what I love and I embrace my identity. And even if you dislike all of these things, that's perfectly fine as well. What is not okay, however, is to judge these things based on femininity. So the next time you have the impulse to dismiss something, for example, this new K-pop group, pause and think, is that dislike based on who likes this thing? Do you not like this K-pop group because their music is bad, or is it because mostly teenage girls love them? Unpacking this attitude and changing our own behaviors can make us become more respectful, understanding, and empathetic. This is not something we can fix immediately, but if we take attention to our actions and thoughts, we can rehabilitate our own mindset. So let's not hate on girly things. Let's embrace femininity in whatever any girl or boy likes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, speakers. So this comes to the end of this all high school finals. And thank you so much to everyone for being here and give us a really enjoyable round for us to judge. So basically, all three judges will give you guys some feedback before we leave. So I will just start with my own feedback first. So I will just start in order, like to comments to first speaker, then to the last speaker. So first, I will give comments to the first speaker. So basically, for the importance part, I think within a few sentences, the main subject of your speech should be clear, and the rest of the content built in a smooth and understandable manner to support the speaker's thesis, which makes me think this is a pretty persuasive speech. And I think you have a definitely clear speech, introduce clear outline about like the words to lead, and I think I like your speech outline because this is pretty clear. And you addresses the topic in a unique way, and the examples are great. But I think that the whole speech logic could be more clear. Like when you mention a problem, could go with the cause and solutions, and also your nonverbal communication skills. You could also improve more on this, because of sometimes you could use more hand gestures and eye contact with the judges. For the second speaker, first of all, I think you have a really persuasive speech, and this is our argument speech for me because of the content includes a lot of research, real-world examples, and main points. I think the content of this speech is clear and easy for me to digest. So it is organized well, and all the supporting arguments are logically structured. The speaker's points flow is logically from one to the next, and the tone of the speech refers to the overall impact of the content and style. So the speech is unique and unforgettable. Some general feedback. So I think you are able to make your own primary argument apparent within the first few sentences, which makes which makes this speech be a really enjoyable one. But I think you could do make more eye contact with the judge, and also I hope that you could just stand up straight in front of your camera so that we could see your body moves and your stage management ability. Instead, we just sit here and the only thing that we could see is your shoulder and your head. It's not that kind of effective when you deliver a speech. Okay, so for the third speaker, I think this is a really well confident speech, and the speaker addresses the topic in a unique and inventive way. Conclusions are impressive and summarize all the points. So basically, when I first see this topic, it captures my attention and interest. You introduce your topic clearly and confidently, and you also use a lot of comparing examples to engage with the speech, so your speech is effective. So I think that I could relate to your frustration and keep going. So you are making your dad proud and leave with the regrets and never give up. So I think the speaker's point flow is logically from one to the next, and the personal story and experience is vivid. For the first speaker, but who have we neglected? So basically, all of your speech, like the elaborations and extensions in the speech, holds my interest to expect what you will actually speak about next. And what I got from the speech was clear research and comparisons, and topic adapted well to the audiences, and I could see your enthusiasm for this topic. And all of the audiences and think also the judges could relate to this topic, and the contestants give relevant speech. I think you have really great non-verbal communication skills, like the transitions and your body movements are really impressive. So I think the speaker used illustration judiciously, and I thoroughly enjoyed your original oratory. Your delivery was so engaging that I lost all track of time. So for me, this is a really inspiring speech, and you are a really impressive presenter. And when it comes to the last speaker, why does society hate girly things? So basically, the topic is significant and the thesis is clearly established, and the cases and examples you use in your speech is relevant. Like you use some personal examples and also a lot of stories from the world which are really relevant to your topic. So really great precise making. And I think the topic adapted well to the audiences because, well, we all have this kind of same experience when we are really young or when we encounter the same stuff in our real life. So basically, the speech content is inspiring and unforgettable. You have really great stage management ability, and the stage transitions from your speech makes me feel really impressive. And overall, this is a really great speech. And thank you so much to all the contestants for being here, and you guys did a really great job. And good luck for
you.
your results. Yeah, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
I guess I'm the next person to give my comments. Okay, so let me start with the first speaker. So your topic was on the art to lead, just as the first judge has indicated already. I think this topic was relevant. However, the thesis had quite a contradictory relation with the topic. I think the correlation wasn't that clear. And I also think the speaker should try and position your camera really well so that it will allow for body movement because it all forms part of what the judges look at when they are giving their final marks. They look at your mannerism on the topic. They look at your confidence on the topic. They look at the provision of evidences, impact. They look at your body gestures, your movement, maintaining eye contact. But I think body movement, it wasn't that okay from your side. So try to work on your body movement in your next speech. Try to position your camera at a very advantageous point so that the audience will be able to see your body movement, how you introduce emotions when you are doing your delivery. And you could have also supported your delivery with qualities of a leader, okay, because this topic was about the art to lead. You could have introduced some of the qualities of a leader and the functions of a leader. But aside this, I think you did an impressive job. Keep it up. Your voice quality was impressive. Now, when I come to the second speaker, you talked about was Jigsaw. I said, wait, Jigsaw was right. Okay, so you, because your speech was mainly motivated by a movie, I expected you to give a small synopsis of who is Jigsaw, what kind of movie is it, what is the main idea in the movie. Okay, so you can let your audience understand the main idea in the movie so that we can relate to it. But if you just explain it and then give other examples without necessarily letting us understand who Jigsaw is or what the movie is all about, it makes it very, confusing for your audience. But aside this, I think you did well. You presented other examples for us to relate to what actually the movie is about. And even though I haven't watched the movie or read the story, I was able to, get the gist of what you're trying to say. So keep it up on that. Now, when I come to the third speaker, you talked about, so it comes to cancer. I think this is a really interesting topic. It has mixed feelings, interesting and sad at the same time when you mention the death of a family member who died as a result of cancer. That story had a amazing beginning when you talked about how you celebrated your birthday, how the family was all together, how you guys ate the cake, etc. But finally, cancer destroyed everything, brought a whole lot of sorrow moments into the family. It was really amazing to listen to. It was a great speech, and I enjoyed listening to you. You could have supported this thesis with references and evidences to explain how cancer has caused the death of many. I'm sure your family is not the only one affected by cancer because globally, in each family, you'll find about a person or two suffering from cancer. So you could have maybe introduced evidences to indicate how several families globally have suffered from cancer. You could have also indicated possible ways to prevent cancer. There are ways to prevent cancer. Our lifestyle causes cancer. So you could have introduced other ways, other possible ways that we can prevent cancer. And yeah, but that is it. I think aside this, you did an impressive job. I've written a whole lot of feedback. So when you get the ballot from NSDA, you guys can go through to see the comments and then work on your weaknesses. Now, when I go to the fourth speaker, you talked about who have we neglected. This is also a relevant topic. Your topic tells us some of the basic items that we neglect when we focus on the main agenda. And it is true, you talked about how your family was concentrated on you winning a speech without necessarily focusing on how you benefited from NSDA. One, NSDA has made you confident. It has made you meet a whole lot of people, which has even built on your confidence level. And this is a great topic. I like the way you smiled at certain points in time, the way you introduce examples, the way you maintain eye contact, the way you make use of emotions and examples that you presented were awesome. And the only thing I'll say is that keep it up on this topic. The delivery was amazing, and you told the audience not to judge by sequentialism, but they should be open-minded. And you also maintain eye contact, and you made use of your personal life to support this thesis. Keep it up on that. Now, when I go to the fifth speaker, the last speaker, you talked about how society hates girly stuff. This is really a feminist motivated topic, and I enjoyed listening to you because I'm one person who advocates for gender equality. So I related more to your topic. However, I feel you could have supported this speech with impact. Okay, what are the impacts when we discriminate against the use of girly stuff? You could have introduced impact. You could have also indicated why we should be open-minded in accepting girls to use girl-related stuff. You could have also presented evidences from the past to show how society have hated femininity since antiquity and how we can overcome this hate. So these are my feedbacks. Thank you guys for coming, and may the best speaker win.
Okay, since they have already said it a lot, I'm only going to say how are you going to improve for your speech. so I probably isn't going to say anything that saying you're good, but only about something you can improve. First speaker, I agree with the I agree with Purple that you really need to work hard on your facial expression and also your body language. Even though it's an online competition, you can try to make it more persuasive. And also, other than that, you can try to emphasizing on how to make your voice sound more passionate and emotional because it is a speech. It's not about like some day-to-day talk. You can try to make it more powerful so that people are more willing to listen to your speeches. And also in your content, I don't really see that why it is important for us to lead, why it is important to be different from other people. Because when I'm listening to your speech, I might think that, oh, it's okay if I follow other people, if I'm living a really good life by following other people. Why shouldn't I do it? Why should I try something brand new that I don't even know what is it about, and I have no prior experiences to like copy from or learn from? How can I guarantee that I'm living a good life? This is a question you need to think about it. You need to convince people it is important for them to live differently and what benefits they can get or what kind of good life they could get by doing that instead of only telling people they're having people exactly the same in the society, and that is not convincing enough. So just try to work on these. And second speaker, yes, it's a really interesting speech because you've been talking about Jigsaw from the movie and then carry on to discuss about some life and death problem. Something you can improve is that you can make the layer of your speech a little more clear. If you've touched on a lot of different topics, like the philosophers and why people thinking about living and death and how do people thinking about all of the critical issue. If you could make all of the layers clearer, it will be easy for the audiences to hear what you're trying to say next, and then you would have to structurize your speech better. And this third speaker, thank you for sharing us with your story. It it is a important topic for you, and it is also a very moving story. But um, try to tell people more about like your thoughts after that. Is that how do you really change your mind to live a better life or realize your dreams, and what other people could learn from these experiences? Is it like you're trying to teach people how to cherish their lives, or you're trying to educate people to be strong or be something else? For example, you can tell people that it is inevitable for everybody to lose somebody or something that they like and love as time goes by, and what are the responses we're trying to learn could make people's life better. Could be something that the audiences could learn from your speech. And the fourth speaker, uh, it is also a nice speech, but the introduction part is a little bit too long. Try to shorten that because I don't see how this topic shifting from the historical stories for and to this what is that? How you shifted from the historical moments to the factor that decides our success, and then how you're going to evaluate what is success and what is good life. Because this shifting part is not that clear, and also I don't really see that um, how people could care about other people or educate other people to like respect those who are neglected by most of the people. You can try to work on more in the solution part, in that what should we do? Is that you've been talking a lot about with teaching students to caring about marks, to caring about like the gestures and whatever things, but we neglected their mental health. But then what exactly is something that you think that we can change it? Because it's an original oratory, so you're trying to bring out more originality in stating what is your thought and how can this world be a better place and how can people learn to respect others would be better. And the last speaker, something you can improve is that it's an interesting topic because before we usually thinking about parents are really fascinated about pink, fascinated about girlish things, and it is hard for girls to be like boyish or try to be neutral. So I never thought that there would be one day that parents don't like some girlish things, don't like pink. So you've brought this story really interesting, and also you can try to carry out this topic in the way that on what the society is expecting from people and how we can form a better environment with people holding different kind of ideas could live, and how people should learn to care about people holding differences so that all of the people could choose any lifestyle, choose any way of living as they like it, and the people would be living comfortably without harming any other people, and to living in a harmonious society it is everybody wanted to achieve. That's it, and thank you for these speeches. They're really great speeches, and hope you can be great speakers in the future, and hope this speech ability could help you better in your future study and work and life and all of the aspects. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, judges.